Yeah, there's something kicking up with worship, right? It's just something's different is afoot. So we're just going to keep following it. Yeah? Okay. And see where it goes. Ping went out. Clearing battlefield fog. Can't fight what you don't sight. Okay? You notice what the guy is carrying, by the way? Staff and a sword, right? Okay. Connects in. So let me tell you a little bit what's going on. One, there's a whole lot of things that are blowing up right now. Okay? I'm serious. Within our scope, because again, we are under a Watchman apostolic anointing, and so we watch things both near and far, and we're seeing a tremendous amount of things just sort of blowing up. And it can be just situations, disagreements, it can be financial, it can be relational. And the issue happens, and if you have something blow up, Connor, okay. What happens when that goes on is seeing clearly during an explosion is almost impossible, right? Because you're in the shocked and reeled back, and it's hard to see clearly. And because of that, responding well to the situation is very problematic. Okay. I mean, it's why, police and military, we use this stun grenade, right? Which or what they call a flash bang, tremendously bright light and just decibels just to knock you flat because it's very disorienting to that. And so we're seeing that and going, okay, God, there's a pattern going on here. Okay. If just one situation, we go, okay, and we watch that. But now when we see them coming up, we go, okay, something's moving here. And that's been stirring for a while. And it doesn't surprise me that in this second month, okay, which I talked about 4 T's, okay, teaching, training, testing, and transition, that a lot of that happens. And it's not necessarily in that order, right? Sometimes it's the testing first. And then once we're flat on our face comes the teaching and the training. Yeah, hello? Okay. You wish it were like just academic where the teaching, training, and then you get tested. But a lot of times it's more like, okay, here's a pop quiz. Only it's not a quiz, it's a situation. Oh, crap. I knew I should have studied for this, right? Okay. So anyway, last week, if you did not see that teaching, I don't normally say, please go back and watch it, but you're going to want to do this, I think. But it was about the sword and the staff and directives for the battle. And the fact that there are 2 key weapons that are connected in Exodus 17, which happens during this very month. And the more I paid attention to that and one other battle scene, things began to perk up. And so last week we hung out in that Exodus 17 for a bit when Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And we know that Moses went up on the hill with the staff while Joshua was down on the valley with the sword. And Rephidim means what again? Do you remember? Rest. It was in a place of rest. And the Amalekites came and took them on. And very often, right, after some good things and rest, enemy will spring up. So we were pulling from that text, good place to go back and look. And then also the Barak and Deborah connection, the linking there and her directives sent and called for Barak and said to him, has not the Lord God of Israel commanded, go and deploy troops at Mount Tabor, and I will deliver Sisera into your hand. And so here's a situation where rather than being attacked, they are sent to attack, right? And those are both linked in with this and this time. And out of that, I pulled up these 7 directives. One about pivoting perspective. Secondly, that you have to identify the true enemy. And then even when you do those 2 things, you've got to find the right battlefield rather than the wrong one. Align in the right time, not early, not late. Reposition in order to prevail. Too often. Anyway, there's so much on each one of these. We have to raise the standard, and then you've got to be rightly and fully engaged. Okay? And when I did this last week, Kim afterwards came and said, okay, there's a lot more you need to cover in that. Okay? And so just been pondering that because I take her counsel very seriously. Um, Good thing. Yeah. Yeah. But you also have to know a lot of times for me, if I've taught something one time, it's like, okay, well, you heard it once. We need to move on to something else. And God's been correcting me of some of that I'm a little too much do the new thing instead of sometimes reinforcing it. And again, all these are very helpful. And if you go back in through that, we'll look at a little bit tonight. But again, the issue is when the explosion comes, sometimes it's a little hard to sit back and analyze. Okay, because all those things require, and in the midst of that, there's an issue that happens, and it's the fog that happens within, and the fog that happens without. Okay, everybody get this one? The fog that happens within, and the fog that's out there. Just out of curiosity, which do you think is your bigger issue? Within? Within? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right there. And so I gave you a text here that some of you may be wondering, why is he going there? That's in Mark 8. But let's just look at this because it helps address the fog within. And again, you can't fight what you don't cite, right? So this, and they came to Bethesda, and some people brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. And when he had spit on his eyes and laid his hands on him, he asked him, "Do you see anything?" And he looked up and said, "I see people, but they look like trees walking." Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. You like this story? I love it for the humanity of just so many things, okay? So let me just pull down some principles, because part of the problem with the fog is our inability to see. So first things first out of this, you'll see at times our friends see what we need even when we can't. The blind man didn't ask to go see Jesus. The friends took him. Hello. Hello, okay? Yes, we are our brother and sister's keeper, okay? And there's so often we can't see what we can't see. We don't know. Now, you do it in love, you don't do it in judgment, you find a way to do it, but sometimes you're just going to have to help them, okay? Sometimes you got to take the blind and take them to Jesus. And you can do it as gently as saying, "Christy, let's go meet Jesus." Or you can say, "Shelley, time to have a come to Jesus meeting." Okay, that probably won't go over so well, but make sense? Second principle. Jesus will often take you out of a limiting environment. Did you notice that he took him out of the town? Too often the context in which we are is inhabited with so much clutter and noise that for Jesus to do something different in us, he's got to pull us out. Okay? There's more teaching on this, feeling like the environment of unbelief was so intense in that place that Jesus literally had to pull a geographic and get him out of there. So when you go and you know there's a blindness he has to deal with, just don't be surprised, right? When he pulls you out, it's like, "Well, wait a minute, I'm fine here." No, I need you to go here and I want to show you something. Yeah? Okay. Thirdly, that is the first thing that the blind man heard after being introduced to Jesus. I'm serious. Can you imagine? If this guy's blind, he knows what every sound is about, right? And he hears all sorts of sounds, and he knows what they are. His sense of hearing is superhero status, right? That's the noise. And at that point, he's going, "What am I doing here?" Oh, my friends, yeah. With friends like this, who needs enemies? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So what I'm saying is that when Jesus fixes vision, strange doesn't mean he's not in it. It can be, "I need you to go watch this movie." What? "I need you to go read this book." I need you to go sit in the Starbucks for 2 hours and see what I show you. I mean, you don't know. Trust me, any of that's going to be better than, all right? Okay. You're all in. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. This is not even where he makes mud, right? He literally spit on his eyes. Sorry. I love getting the personal details because it's just, you have to think about it. This one. And then he will have you report on what you see now. There will be changes, and Jesus will say, okay, how's this looking now? What's happening now? You see, because this one, vision is typically a process, and we never, ever assume it's a one and done. Well, I went there, did this, got this sprayed off. I'm good. Really? Well, you got that layer sprayed off. What's next? Okay? Hello? Things, had friends going in and get cataract surgery and stuff like this. One of the things they do one eye at a time. It's a progressive thing, right? And then the next one, so there's a way of God working with you in your vision to help you see it and change it a little bit by a little bit. And then we so often need yet another touch. Say, I need another touch. Okay. Put it here. Go, I need another touch. Yeah? Make sense? Okay. So that one's, and we're going to go into it a little bit more, but I want you to think about that in terms of dealing with that fog from within, right? It's clearing battlefield fog. Battlefield fog happens here sometimes because of the battle, and it happens out there. So here's another one. Can't fight what you don't sight. Sometimes because we're in the wrong place, and that has a reason for it. Now it happened when Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem the Arab, and the rest of the enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall, and that there were no breaks left in it. They sent to me, saying, come, let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me harm. I said, oh, no, you don't. Sorry, okay. So I sent messengers to them saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should I leave the work? Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? But they sent me this message 4 times, and I answered them in the same manner. Okay. Distracted equals deficient. Part of the reason for the battle fog is the fact of how we get distracted. Okay? We'll go into that in a second. But let me just pull these things from this bit of teaching. Distractions usually feel innocuous. Hey, can we just have a quick chat? Okay. Hey, I've been praying about this. I think the Lord really wants you to do this. Sorry, that could well be a distraction. Number 2, behind every polite no is a more powerful yes. Nah, I can't come down. Not being rude. It's just this. Do you honestly see your work, that work which God's given you, as great, important, and significant? Yes or no? If you don't, it's going to be very hard to say no, because everybody else is pulling you. Does that make sense? You have to get clarity about the battle that you're in, the priority that it has, so that you've said a definite, a strong yes to that, so you can say, thank you so much. I won't be able to do that today, right? No, it's just, yeah. You can say a polite no rather than, what the heck are you bugging me for? Hello? Yeah? Anyway, that phrase is out of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Good book. Number 4, their persistence must be met by your resistance. The distractions that are coming now are persistent. Ba-da-boom, ba-da-boom. They asked him the same thing 4 times. They were working to wear him down. Any of you have kids? Kids know this negotiating strategy. They will just wear you down. Or the dog will. The dog will sit there and just stare at you. Right? Our dog sometimes at night, I'm trying to watch TV, and he just sits there in front of me and just stares at me. I'm like, okay, go away. put my leg, try to put it. It's just a persistence. Okay. That makes sense? Okay. Let me just give you a couple of things because there's a phrase out there called the fog of war, and I kind of interesting just where it comes from. It means about the uncertainty regarding one's own capability, the adversary capability, and the adversary's intent. Okay? That's called the fog of war. Here's another thing from an 1800s books. It's the state of ignorance in which commanders frequently find themselves as regards the real strength and position, not only of their foes, but also of their friends. Okay? It refers to when you're in the battlefield, you have imperfect information. Okay? And so there's a fog there because you don't know for sure exactly where everybody is and what their intent is. Hello? Yeah? And that bleeds over more into what we're going to talk about with the fog of the battle. So let me just I give you 3 references in the ping that we're dealing with Israel, and I'm just going to grab one right now because the challenge is when we deal with issues is trying to identify where the source is, what the real fight is about. Yeah? So in this one, first of the ones that they go 3 days and they find water. Great. The problem is the water's bitter. Right? And so then it's Moses' fault. Yeah. And they question, what shall we drink? Right out of that, right? I'm dying. Okay. Anyway. So there's a difference between what is called the identified problem and then what's really going on. Okay. So let's look at this. The identified problem is there's a lack, correct? Identified problem is the water's bitter. The identified problem is Moses' leadership. Okay? That's where they all are. The issue is the real issues is there's a bit of brain fog going on. Okay? Because the real issues under there are a group think. Because what happens now is you've got a whole mass of people that are now starting to think as one, and that's always dangerous. Hello? Okay? You start getting all there. And in that group think, they can start going, okay, but is there going to be enough water for me? Because that person and that person and that, okay? So it's a group think and a group competition. And so those are the deeper issues that are there. The deeper issue under that is this question, did we make a mistake? Okay, yeah, the lack seems like the leadership's a problem, it's bitter stuff, but the real issue is, oh crap. And how about under this? Can this God of war be a God of provision? See, they saw him as God of war. He cleaned house in Egypt. He buried all Pharaoh's army in the sea, right? They get that part. Okay, that's cool. But you have to understand, and this troubled Israel forever and ever. Very often, Yahweh was the God of war, and then they would turn to the Baals and Ashtaroth as the God of the harvest and provision. Because if things were peaceful and all you needed was annual crops, then you'd turn to the fertility goddess. Yeah? But when you got under attack, you turned to Yahweh God. So this is still a question, right? It's underneath the thing. The real fight is not about the water. The real fight is about, can we do this, and ultimately, can we trust him? But the brain fog is getting them to fight on the wrong battle. Hello? The issue isn't about that parking space you just missed. Hello? God, I was praying for a parking space. Anyway, right? So, is this tracking? Hello? Okay, just want to make sure. So the battle fog which is within us. Too often we cannot see the people for the trees. Like the guy, right, who I see people, I think, but they look like trees walking around. And we can be in a major muddle. And one of the things that can happen to us, like Israel out there with the bitter water, is we're missing the mark. And we start moving around with this. We're certain that the issue is entirely out there when it may actually be within us. Hello? We see this. People that move in a lot of accusation, it's actually because that thing is operating in them. There's a whole lot of accusing of themselves, and they've internalized that, so it's going out. Or we can be the other way. We're convinced that it is all within us when it's largely out there. Hello. We'll get into that in a second. The real issue, though, either way, is so often about the flesh, right? It's the soulishness, old wounds, denial, strongholds, things which blind us to the core issues. Yeah? And so in relational issues, sometimes you have this. They are the identified problem. That group of people, that political party, that person, that dog, that whatever, right? Not that dog. No, not that dog. I meant like an old dog, like Joel. So when is that? Now, I dog eat dog. I know none of you have ever had these thoughts or feelings, but let's just say it's somebody that you see do this, so you be clear about it. The other person is in the wrong and you are in the right. They are blind to the issue, but you see it clearly, right? Oh, come on. How can they be blind? Come on. I see it. What's wrong? Why can't they see that? The real battle is over their immaturity, lack of self-awareness, brokenness, and sin. But I'm praying for them. Lord, grow them up. And all you can do is try to show them where they're wrong. And then if you really want to take the next layer, where you're going to pray against or pray off spirits of self-delusion, arrogance, and fear. Come on, hello. There's at least one honest person in the back with a book in front of her face. Oh yeah, that's me. Other pivot to the extreme is this. We are the identified problem. You're always in the wrong. They're always right. You are blind to the issue. Well, obviously others just have to see it clearly. The real battle is over my own immaturity, lack of self-awareness, brokenness, and sin. And all I can do is back away and sink into my shame and myself. Yeah? And you know what's funny? These two configurations can be the same person on any given day. Hello? Okay? And the problem is, I just have to bring this out because I think it's always funny. You have the psychotic, this is the extreme, where nothing is their fault. And you have the neurotic, where everything is their fault. Okay? And I know both. Right? There are folks where nothing is ever their fault. It's like, okay, how is that possible? And then some person with, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. It's just me. I'm wrong. It's like, stop that. Either one of those. Okay. The problem is these two get together and they just love it. Because the neurotic says, oh, I'm wrong. And the psychotic goes, you are. They are in complete agreement. Okay. Now, just so you know, some of that can operate in us. We can have selective responsibilities about certain areas where that's never my fault. I always do it this way. Okay. And have another area of our life of, oh, I screwed it up again. I always screw it up. I'll always screw it up. And we're speaking curses. One, we're in denial. The other, we're bringing on the same behavior again. All this adds to the battlefield fog, right? Okay. So one of the things we just want to do, pick a battle that you have right now. Think about it for a second. Here's some ways to get after it. Where is your stress now? In other words, where are your recycling thoughts going? What's the situation that's spinning around it? Okay, you got to first identify what the battle is. See, a lot of times you're in one and you don't even know it. Because for you, it's just life. But if we can see clearly that there's a battle going on, it will help then to apply the right weapons in the right time and the perspective and all. And what is the focus of those thoughts? Are y'all thinking of something that's stressing you lately? Y'all got something? You need to make this. Some of you are like, do I have to only pick one? Yes, just pick one. Okay. You know, and what is your focus in that? Is it about a person? Their issue that it is, or worried about them, or a lack of something, a decision that you have to make, a situation that's in there. And then here's the question: how objective do you believe you are in being able to see it clearly? That's the question. See, because the filter that you look through will affect what you understand the battle and therefore what's the strategy. And like Israel, you may be thinking it's lack, it's leadership, and it's not. It's something deeper. It's trust. It's a question. Did we screw this up by coming out here? Yeah? So you have to try to find through there. And then what percentage of the issue in that battle is you versus them or it? Right? In other words, how much is that stuff in you really the core issue, and how much is something else? Hello? Because I will tell you candidly, it's never 100% of one or the other. Unless you're Jesus and you're that free and clear, right? Now is the hour of the prince of this world, and he has no hold on me. That is one of my goals. I want the enemy to have no hold on me, right? But I'm still working on that. Okay. And so, you just got to be honest. Is it 10% me, 90% that other person or situation? Is it a 50-50 split? Is it a 90 me, 10% them? Anyway, does this make sense? You have to get through it to get the fog, because the enemy will try to just keep us in that. And then he'll get us fighting the wrong fight. Years ago, came back from getting my butt kicked badly, getting longer story. Some of you getting kicked out of a ministry in Hong Kong because I didn't share their vision. I was like, okay. Anyway, got really depressed, ended up in therapy and counseling with a great Christian counselor who walked me through stuff. And man, I was growing and learning so much stuff. And Kim and I started to develop a friendship and all that. And then we moved in and we were boyfriend, girlfriend. And I come in and go, well, I got this problem. Kim's doing da-da-da-da. And he goes, well, what's your problem? I said, it's not my problem. It's Kim. He said, no, it's yours. No. She's doing this. That isn't the issue. It's you. What? Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we didn't move in together. We moved forward as a boyfriend, girlfriend. Sorry. No, we were married. Then we moved in later. But he kept pushing me back to dealing with my side of it, my issues. What did I need to own? Well, Kim needs to get in and get therapy and get, fixed up. That's not your issue. Yeah, it is. No, it's not. You're the issue, right? So getting a handle on that so that you can really see the field of battle, because we get so fogged and we think, well, if this person would just stop doing that, I'd be fine. Well, if this situation would resolve and there was money for this, or there wasn't stress for that, or there's healing for that, then this would all be fine. Maybe, right? But we have to first go and say, okay, God, what is it you're doing in me? Make sense? Okay. So the real battle, again, always bearing in mind, do you really know who or what is engaged? This is a critical aspect when we're trying to get through that fog, that we don't get distracted fighting the wrong battles. Again, too often we're just, do you know the number of churches that go over splits over about what new carpet to put down in the sanctuary and stuff? I mean, it's amazing the stuff that can happen, okay? The enemy gets us fighting the wrong battles. He loves it. When the real issue is over here. That's why Jesus said, you strain out the gnats, but you swallow a camel. You're fighting over the tiddly stuff, and you're not fighting over the big issues. You're majoring on the minors, and you're minoring on the majors. Make sense? So we've got to get some clarity in that. And this is the old threefold thing. This is in traditional Christian teaching that goes from about the 4th century on, about the threefold battles that we have with the world, the flesh, and the enemy. Okay? And so often, though, this is the challenge, is that they're in combination with each other. And this is where we need a little bit of clarity with that. And let me just give you a reference of how this connects in with Scripture, Ephesians 2. And he made alive who were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, among whom also we all once conducted ourselves in the lust of the flesh. There you go. You get the world, prince of the power of the air, and the flesh. Make sense? So let's just put these two guys back into the picture again. Okay? The flesh, yes, you've got the brokenness, you got wounds, you got bias going on, fear operating, and old triggers. All that stuff can be stirring up, right? He's bringing that into the table. But then you've got a world system in which we operate and we connect. And let's say maybe these guys are family. Clearly, the way they fight, they must be related. So you got this world system, and in that there is a sense of entitlement. That's going on there. There's patterns and habits that are developed. There's a scarcity mentality. If you're going to win, I'm going to have to lose. So if I'm going to win, you're going to have to lose. Okay? Called a zero-sum thinking. There is a demand for honor. Hello. Et cetera, et cetera. So the flesh is going in there, the world system, and it's amping up and amping up. And into the midst of that, now the enemy goes, oh, fun. Yeah. Because now he can operate push-pull on access points that are there. Drop in thoughts, throw another thought to you. So let's see if, he can't read your mind, but he can throw thoughts. The reason we know that is scripture when Jesus has to rebuke Peter. Get behind me. Okay? That thought got dropped in, and it's right after he had the brilliant thought and revelation of Jesus as the anointed one. And then what happens is the enemy goes, oh, it's a play date. Because I can stir up the foul spirit operating in this one with the foul spirit operating in that one, and then this is going to be fun. And he's just off to the races. Yeah? You can put a couple people in that both work in accusation. Boy, get them going. Is there flesh stuff? There certainly is. Is there world system stuff? There is, but the enemy's in there, and the dynamic gets very involved, and we've got to be able to say, okay, see what's going on, but we always have to start here with our stuff, right? Okay, God, what you got? Is there some way he's got a hold on me? The enemy being. Just admit he does, and let's get over it. Let's get it broken free. Get that thing broken down. Is this making some sense? So in the fog, you've got to be aware how these are operating. But first, to go, okay, God, what's here? What do I own? If we will just go with that level of honesty, okay, now other things start to reveal themselves. Maybe there's something in me. Gosh, I got this finance problem. Oh, it's just because the dumb job that I'm in doesn't pay me enough, and da-da-da. Okay, what else might be operating? See, that's the identified problem. Bad job, not enough cash. Okay, what may be beneath that? How's my trust of the Father? How am I sowing back into kingdom and giving him the first and the best of who and what I have and what I am? Am I God robbing? Okay, what's going on? See, got to look down at the other roots in that. Yeah? Okay. One other quick point, just because it's in this time. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. And of course, you know that Moses was told, get this stick and throw it in, and it was made sweet. And that whole story has this little tag there where it says, there he made a statute, and there he tested them. I just want to bring up, folks, when we're dealing with our stuff, anything that's in you that has the bitter root, just get after it. Get after it, because frankly, it makes the water in you unpalatable, toxic. You really don't want to have that, okay? Just fight to be free. Lord, show me what that is. I should put a link up to Kim's teaching on the bitter root of judgment. Get rid of that stuff. Let it get, and to degree to which it's still there, do not let it sit there idly. Go after it. I don't want this. Lord, show me the stick you got to throw in me. Okay? The branch, the wood. A little bit helpful there. Give you some more things to thought. Okay, battlefield fog. This is kind of where the other part that I think is an issue. The battle skirmishes are happening on multiple fronts, and so you cannot even discern the who and the what is where. Any of you feel like that? Okay. There's a lot. How many of you are still watching the news? How many of you reduced your news intake? Yeah. In part because there's just so much out there. And even though we could report on good news about this, and this, and that's not what reports, right? And so we're experiencing the entire trauma of the globe because it can happen at a very isolated place in Peoria, Afghanistan, South Africa, and it's right in my face. The loss and the sorrow. And it's not that I need to be in denial of that, but wow. So often then we can feel overwhelmed and even panicked, feeling out of control. We have the concerns, but we feel so powerless to do much of anything. We get distracted by the skirmishes that are not ours to engage. This is a real issue, folks. This is what will kill most people in Christian leadership in a church. Too often, the little skirmishes are going, and they get up to their eyeballs in it. So and so and so and so, and anyway, and these two elders or or the deacons or whatever. It's like, okay. But the bottom line is the reason this happens, the distractions, is we do not fully grasp what our assigned sphere is. See, Nehemiah knew where he was supposed to be. And all those distractions and invitations to go down, I have important work here. He knew what his assigned sphere is. You have to get clear on what your assigned sphere is and what your fights are not. Some people get so worked up watching certain programs or channels or something like that. And it's like, okay, is that really your fight? You want to be putting all your energy into that? And if so, then you're in the wrong field. You need to be in politics or you need to be in media. I'm not shutting it down, but you sitting here spinning up like a vortex, getting everybody who comes near you flung, all this stuff flinging on them, isn't helping. You ain't fighting the fight. And if you're fierce about that, then you're doing it in the wrong context. You need before the Lord. You get that assignment and you go war in the spirit for that. But just sitting there spinning it around, what would? Say, not my circus, not my monkey. I never heard that expression until we got down here. And I just thought, okay, that's a great one. So too often we come down from our assignment to engage in trifles rather than staying fully committed to our assigned work. And that's what leads to the battlefield fog. And folks, it can even be with someone that you deeply love and you're very committed to. Sometimes that is just not your assignment. Oh, but every time this happens, they go, okay, that sometimes you have to let them just spin in that stuff. It is not, unless God says that's your assignment, go rescue, go do this, speak into this. But you got to be clear what it is, because the enemy will use that to just wear you down. Okay. So all of that distraction, and all that creates this, and that creates that battlefield fog. Make sense? So to clarify how you deal with that, then get focused on what is your assignment, what is your sphere. So let me give you this kind of three thingy here. Gosh, what time is it? Okay. Am I covering? You doing okay with this? Okay. So the staff before the sword. Perspective before the problem, sight before the fight. Christy's like, what? I can see that look on her face. Okay, let me just take you through this because I want to elevate you back to, this was my point number 6 last week, but I want to bring it first and foremost because I think this is where it needs to be, right? First thing was staff before the sword. So you have to choose the right weapon in any fight that you're in. Say that you're getting some clarity about that. The brain fog is lifting, okay? The battlefield fog is lifting because you're getting clarity about what part is you own and what part is somebody else and what part you need to gauge. You're not getting distracted, so you're getting a better focus. Are you tracking with that? Okay. Then you got to choose the right weapon. the right weapon first. And too often we want to grab hold of the sword and do something. But I love this verse, Psalm 149, may the praise of God be in their mouths and the double-edged sword in their hands. Which goes first? Praise in their mouths. I think the first weapon is you have to raise the standard. Now, last week we talked about this. Just before the battle, when it was brought and Moses held it upright, just before that, it was used to strike the rock and the water came out to the people, right? It answered this question, is the Lord among us or not? It was a tangible symbol of the presence and power of God. And it was a sign of that. And so when Moses raised it up, it was not a prayer, okay? Prayer is prayer. And doubtless Moses was, I'm sure, praying in that, although at times he was probably just tired, just like, okay. Thanks, sir. I'm sorry I didn't use deodorant today. It was good, though. It was Odagoat. Anyway. No, he just held it up because he could have it down and have his hands down and be praying. Okay. And you don't pray as a Jew sitting down. You're standing up. And when he got tired and sat down, well, then he must not really have been praying. No, it was all about that the presence and the power is represented there. Yahweh Nisi, it was that Nisi is, that's the altar that they build. And they say the Lord is a banner. He's a standard. He's a rallying point. He's my stronghold. And so rightly honoring the Lord. And so Jesus says, if I be lifted up, I will draw all to myself. So the standard must be deliberately and definitively raised. So what does that look like practically for you? In the midst of getting clear, before you think about what the battle is, are you really raising the standard? Are you saying, Lord, you are Lord of all hosts? This is, it's all about you. All this stuff, it's all going to work out in the wash eventually. I've read the end of the book. I know how it goes. Rightly honoring you. Do you get me? So easy to get too immersed down. And we got, okay, get the standard up, get the standard up, get the standard up. And then when you do that, there is a shift that happens because the thing I said was about your perspective. This was actually the first thing I had in there, but you got to raise the standard. And when you do, then your perspective shifts. And this verse from that Exodus 17 passage, that the Lord will war against Amalek. And so when we raise the standard, we're also getting our perspective shifted to going, okay, God, who and what are you warring about? And how am I involved in this? I know you're warring. Is he warring for you? Yeah, he wants you free. He wants you whole, right? He wants you aware of just who you are and what's moving. He wants all that. Is that part of the fight that you're in? Yeah, always. But this, right? But that high points perspective shifts it so where we understand it's not that we're trying to get him to join in our fight, but we're joining him in his fight. Okay, I hit on this real hard last week. I just can't think of anything. Just keep us from getting in the wrong fights. I mean, literally, there are churches that have split over the carpeting color. Okay, somebody, and you know what? And they doubtless they all prayed about it. No, I'm serious. Okay, but somehow we missed it. But again, it's the same stuff. It's no different than Jesus saying, hey, you're straining out the gnats, but you're swallowing the camels. You're not getting your tithing of this little bit of the mint and coming to the little smallest of herbs, and yet you're missing the way to your issues. What's the real fight here, and who's involved in it? And then this is with Deborah saying, has not the Lord gone out before you? Barak could win because it was God's fight. God picked the fight with Sisera and Jabin. God did. Barak wasn't out there asking God to be with him. Barak was on the field of battle because God was leading. If we would get that perspective shift, okay, we raise the standard. When we raise the standard and we really do that, now our perspective begins to shift. Our position begins to shift. It's about his kingdom, his battle, his honor, and it's not about us. Say, it's not about me. I may be fighting for something for Kim or for Levi, one of you, but ultimately it's not about Kim or Levi or you. It's about his kingdom, what he wants to do. Okay? And I want to get involved in that fight. For one thing, because I know how that's ultimately going to end. Because he doesn't lose. So we have to often detach from a fight that we're in order to ask if we are to be in this fight at all. That's what that perspective does. You start to ask the question, okay, am I really? And if you do that, you get way down. Sorry. I remember one time driving with a woman I was dating, and we got in this tremendous fight. And suddenly I realized this was really stupid. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm just tired and hungry. Yeah. I love the retort, though. This is one of the most powerful nuggets of wisdom I got. She goes, well, that may be the reason, but it's no excuse. But see what happened? We got way down the road about this, and it wasn't about anything. We got to do that in other things. The fog of whose fight this is has to be removed. And that issue of perspective, do you know what these are? Shipping containers, right? And these? Yeah. And this? Yeah. Perspective shift. Too often we're down in the rust and the bolts, and we got to get elevated so we can see a pattern. Hello? That perspective change. And so before we ever look at the problem, we got to elevate. We got to get a question now of priority. What are we going to do first? Focus on the problem or focus on the perspective change and getting that standard raised? It's a question of where is our focus? Oh God, I'm just so upset about this thing, and I keep thinking about that. And you know, if I did that and I did this and I went, God's like, and our whole thought process is down here in the mud. And God's like, okay, I need you to come up a little higher. Instead of focusing on that part, I need you to see the bigger picture. I love how this looks. Doesn't that look amazing? I mean, we have to be able to see from a higher vantage point, and we cannot have our view of the forest blocked by the trees. Yeah? Okay. You talking so far? I'm going to wrap up here fairly quickly, I think. Maybe so. So you need to pivot from IP to IP. What? Pivot from the identified problem to an immovable perspective. Again, are you clear what the identified problem is? For years, I sold real estate, new homes. And when you do construction, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, some of you have done it recently, and there's delays and everything. You'd have somebody come in and there'd be some little thing that got missed, and man, they would just double barrels. They would just unload on you. And part of what you had to understand is that you were the identified problem. The real issue is all the stress and strain that leads up to moving. Because the only reason people move into another house is usually because their family grew, they're adding kids, their family diminished, they're empty nesters, or somebody died. They got a promotion or a change in job, right? It's a big transition. This is just one thing. And the stress just builds. And then if they're trying to sell their house and do that, and they're dealing with that. And so they come in and they're just loaded for bear. And if it wasn't you, it was some poor woman who cut them off in traffic. Right? And so you just had to learn, okay, I'm the identified problem, but you understood it's not really you. We all do that, folks. It's a guy who, the traditional story was the guy who has a really bad day at the office, comes home, yells at the wife. The wife turns around and yells at the kid. Kid kicks the dog, and the dog bites the cat. You know, it's just like everybody's just. So, you know, it just keeps going. So from the identified problem, we pivot into that immovable perspective, which is where he is. And how? Just some references. How about being washed with the water of the word? Do you know that? Because we see in part and we prophesy in part. Guess what? I see in part. I need to shift from that. That identified problem, I gotta let that go. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Paul says. You are seated with Christ in the heavenlies. Oh my goodness, that needs to shift my perspective, doesn't it? Set your mind on the things above. And how about this one? Paul just says, by the cross, that I am dead to the world and the world is dead to me. You know what? Sometimes you just got to break out of that system. You know what? I don't have to be in that fear of man. I don't have to be defending my own honor. I don't need to be doing that stuff. That's a world system thingy or a religious thingy. That's not me in God and God in me. So, staff before the sword, the perspective before the problem. Give you some practical things here. One, raise the standard. Take a deep breath. See and set his glory, honor, and presence above all things. Make sense? Two, shift position and pivot your perspective. You are seated with him above all of this. Say, I'm seated above all of this. Wow, if you actually believed that, a lot of that churn would stop. I love this poster I saw in college where it said, don't tell me that worrying doesn't work. All the things I worry about never happen. Yeah. It's so true, right? Why are we getting distracted? Why are we in that fog? Number three, clear the distractions. Not my circus, not my monkey. Hello? Serious, okay? You have to get this. You want chapter and verse? Jesus set boundaries very clearly on what he was about and what he's not, okay? I was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, he dealt with others on that, but he knew, no, this is it. He knew the disciples, do not leave. Do not leave Jerusalem until the time. You confine, stay here. Clear the distractions, take your seat. Admit to him that you are blind to some or all things involved and you need another touch. Say, I need another touch. Yeah. And when you hear God go, brace yourself, Betty. Okay. Bring what you now see as the identified problem and lay it on the altar. Oh, God, you know this. Oh, that bill. Oh, that person. Oh, that. Bring your identified problem and lay it on the altar. And what that moves is it begins to give you sight before the fight. Because you ask him then to reveal what lies beneath that. What am I not seeing, God? I know I'm seeing people, but they look like trees moving. I know I see the situation, but I don't really get it. Hello? You understand? And then again, go back. What is the stress, anxiety, and focus of the battle? That's one of the ways you're getting hooked in. And you need to get some disconnect there and get elevated a bit. It's the only way you can get a clear view of it. Hello? Besides that, you need the break. You need some shalom. And then ask, what may be hooked in me? What am I afraid may or may not happen? You just got to go. While this thing's laying on the altar, you're asking these questions. What wounds and scars might be flaring up in me? Let God do the work. Do you want to get healed? You want to get whole? You want to be able to move like Jesus did, where he wasn't torqued and twerked around. Instead, he just did what the Father. I mean, now, when you're through that, then you look again at the players and the pieces, and you ask to see it all as he sees it. Okay, Lord, show it to me. Again, I was talking with somebody earlier in the week. One of my favorite prayers if I'm having a struggle with somebody, Lord, I bless them. I release your blessing upon them. Reveal their wounds and heal them. Reveal their full glory and set them free. And what that always does is it elevates my perspective on them, because now I see them as a person. Instead of who's maybe trying to victimize me or something like this, I see them as someone who's been wounded. And then I see them as someone who has glory on them. regardless of what they're moving in. There was an original glory in that DNA. The fact that it's so muddled right now, as far as I see, right, doesn't mean. And so to pray for that. And then ask him to reveal the inner dynamics of the flesh, world, and enemy, and how those are floating around and all that. That makes sense? There's a couple things you want to go back and make some notes on maybe. So remember these words of Jesus talking about blind. If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. Right? Take that log out of your own eye. Oh, you just saw that? Yeah, it kind of came crashing down on him. See? Oh. See, here's the thing. You know that whole, this is in John 9, right? This is with the Pharisees and stuff like this, and speaking about, you know, and the fact that they were so arrogant to say that we see, we really got it. We know what's happening. He says, because of that, your guilt remains. So go gently. Go humbly. Lord, I'm like the blind guy. I need another touch. So the fog within is largely addressed by that Mark 8, another touch into greater vision. The fog without is largely dealt with Nehemiah 6, no distractions, focused on your work and assignment. And let that cloud go down so you can be in the right fight at the right time in the right place. Clear the battlefield, fog. The staff goes before the sword. Say staff before the sword. Perspective before the problem. Sight before the fight. Does that make sense? It's just kind of this is a fairly simple 3-phrase thing. Okay, before I get into any kind of bringing out the sword, I need to bring out the staff, okay? And I need to get the perspective shifted so I'm looking at from the right perspective before I'm focused on the problem. And then I need to get clear sight before I actually try to get in the fight. Okay? It will save a whole lot of energy fighting the wrong battles. So clear the battlefield fog. You can't fight what you don't sight. Father? No, sorry, that was just me. You're really good. You got you all trained. Sit. Stay. I'm not sure. I didn't try to do too much again. I'm sorry if I did. Heart set is to try to help you in the battle. We need you effectively moving. And we need you to stop the silly shit. And the distractions. Okay? We don't pull any punches here. And sometimes you're getting wrapped around the ankles, around the axles, around stupid stuff. Stop it. Attend to what's going on. Where's the hurt? We want to help with that. We want to see you whole. We want to see you well. But sometimes you're just getting in stuff that just stop. It's not all your fault. And it's not all their fault. There's something in the midst of that. Something God wants to do in you and do in that situation and do in them. The degree to which you hold that together and you keep holding all of that up before the Lord, things will start to shift. And you'll get free. And the enemy, they won't have a chance to. Some of you, we watch that, and that's painful because we don't want to see that. Okay, he is a puppet master only to the degree to which those strings are still attached. So you deal with it and you get free. Yeah. Father, I ask now for the will to see where we're blind. And a deep awareness that your grace meets us in massive ways. It's all about you. It's about your grace. And if we will walk in truth, The more truth we walk in, the more your grace floods in. Lord, it's your fight. It's your battle. We're with you. We lay down the fights that we shouldn't be in. We raise and honor you up here. You will draw all to yourself. We'll put the staff before the sword. We'll get the perspective right before we focus on the problem. And we will get our sight back so we see, so we can fight. All to your glory, Lord, and to the establishment of your kingdom. In the name of Jesus. Amen.